Okay, we're recording. Breathing is good. We'll wipe the nose.
I know.
It's always running. All right.
Same.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Permission to Heal. Hi, I am Marcy Brockman, and I'm extremely glad that you're here joining us. Today, I have a very special guest. Melissa Jones is here. She is a fellow teacher and a very inspiring woman who is leading the charge for our young ladies. Melissa Jones is an inspiring girls empowerment coach, a highly effective licensed classroom teacher. She teaches fifth grade, at least this year, who helps girls learn daily positive habits so they can feel confident in who they are and connect with other girls in an empowering environment. She has been motivating and cultivating connections among hundreds of girls and providing families with resources. She has gained over 22,680 hours of experience. I want to talk to you about how you calculated that, because that's pretty impressive. After noticing patterns in girls across 4 different school environments related to the struggles with self-esteem and confidence, and having struggled into adulthood with low self-esteem and lack of self-confidence and strategies herself, she now uses her personal transformation and research with experience-based strategies to elevate girls to live their best life while linking arms in a community centered around growth and empowerment. I can't think of anything better than that. As a girl mom and as a former Girl Scout leader and a teacher myself, I think that's fabulous. She engages them in activities that motivate girls to take action toward feeling confident and empowered, focusing on their strengths instead of their challenges. So she runs the Girls Positivity Club, working directly with elementary school and middle school girls and their families, virtually creating positive communities of girls. She teaches lessons in confidence, positive daily habits, and learning how to have positive relationships with each other and other girls and other family members. That's amazing. And she's been on TV. She's been featured on WTHR NBC, Fox 59, Idea Mensch, and in mid-December, she's going to be on CBS 4. And she lives in Indiana. I'm assuming these are Indiana versions of stations. That's extremely cool. That's
Thank you.
fabulous. That's fabulous. Yeah, I think a lot of, I'm so glad that you're here. Before I launch into things, I have this habit of doing that. Thank you so much for being here, Melissa. I'm really pleased as punch that you are.
Oh gosh, thank you. It's an honor, and I love talking with you, and I love everything you're doing as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I finally feel like after, I don't know how many years, I'm in the right place, doing the right thing at the right time. And that's a really good feeling. And I'm loving this podcast. I get to talk to all you fabulous people. And I feel like every day or every time I engage in one of these interviews, I'm having like, it's part therapy session and part chatting with my girlfriends. Like we're just missing some wine. That's a really good idea for the next episode. And it's like the most amazing thing I've ever done, I think, or one of them.
I love it.
This is fabulous.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
I think that there are so many things that I could have avoided going through or could have had been less severe and less personally challenging if I had had a person like you and the Girls Positivity Club in my life. And I think that's phenomenal. And I'm sure that's what your goal is.
It is. And that's exactly why I started it. I would have just really same thing. I would have thrived to have something like this growing up as a girl, and I think things would have been a lot easier for me. And I just would have had so many more tools and strategies for how to deal with things beyond just what my mom could tell me, because I think our parents too are limited in their own experiences.
Sure.
So it's good to be that outside person who is the coach for them, and another voice, just pouring into them. So,
and you're not their mom and you're not their classroom teacher. So they get to think of you as this cool, like mom-ish type or big sister-ish or auntie type. And you get to be the guide on the side, and sort of be friends, but a little mentoring also kind of, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you. That's what I do.
Marvelous. Okay. Before we get into the hows and the whys and all of that, I usually do these 6 questions to begin the conversations with. I like the differences in how people answer the same thing. It's just
Mhm.
this sociological thing in my head. I just think it's very cool. Okay. So what 5 words would you use to describe yourself?
I am kind, hardworking, determined, compassionate, and a risk taker.
That's a really great combination.
Thank
I
you.
could say the
I
same thing
think,
about myself, I think.
yeah, I
I
think
like
I
the
would
risk
have answered.
taker thing. Go ahead.
Thank
Sorry.
I think, no, you're fine. I think I would have answered this differently a few years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
And in a few
Yeah.
years from now, or in less than a year from now, you might answer it differently again.
Yes,
And that's the
absolutely.
beauty of a woman who is evolving, is that
Yes.
every day is different. You see a different part of yourself grow out of what was there before. It's a beautiful
Yes, I
thing.
agree. It is.
Absolutely. Okay. What is your favorite way to spend a day?
So my favorite way to spend a day would be in the morning. I would have a slow start to myself, drinking coffee, sitting in my office, journaling, just having those quiet moments. I like to sit. I have a bench behind me that has pillows, and I like to look out the window. It's very peaceful. We live in the country, so there's really not much around us, and that's really calming for me.
That's
So I
lovely.
would start that. Thank you. I would start that way. And then I would say the rest of the day, I would accomplish some tasks because I am an achiever.
Mhm.
I feel better and more at peace with myself when I achieve or accomplish something in a day. And so whether that's for the business or whether that's just personally at home, I would want to do that. And then the rest of the time, spend time with my husband and son and our dogs, and just being, just
Yeah.
being, just sitting by the fire or playing outside or anything really.
Sounds
Yeah.
great to me. I'm like that too. I try not to be a workaholic because I know that takes it to the other extreme, but I really feel better about myself when I know I've accomplished a few things. It could be just laundry and
Yes.
dishes and making the bed, but I have to
Yes.
do something. I can't
Yes.
just, although Saturday I didn't do all that much, but it was raining and we were
Yeah.
tired. Anyway,
No, I know.
okay, what is your favorite childhood memory?
So this is a hard one for me because my parents are happy people. My dad's passed away, but my mom still, like, they're just fun people, and so they created a lot of experiences. But I would say, if I'm thinking of my own self empowerment, there was this one softball game where I was not like the star player. I wasn't the athlete. I was just kind of a participant in sports.
Right?
And I got more into dance as I got older. And in this one game, had like the best hit of my life. I scored, I think, like I don't even know, a double or a triple, which I never did. And then I ended up scoring the winning run,
Wow.
RBI. And the moment, I think, is such a big deal for me, not just because I never had experienced that before, but it was the first time that I really felt seen by
Mhm.
my peers. And they did like the movie thing where they lifted me up. And as cheesy as that is, that was like one of the only times in my growing up where I really felt like I mattered and I was seen beyond just the small group of friends that I had. So
Sure.
I think that's why it was such a big deal. So yeah, so that's one of my favorites.
That's huge, Melissa. That's huge.
Yeah.
Wow,
I
that would
still
be my
remember
favorite day too. If that had happened to me, that
that.
would be my favorite day too. To be hoisted up like
Yeah.
that and to have that
I know.
cheering and belonging and really feel like
Yes.
you're part of the team and you're not
Mhm.
just a liability. I was the kid that they used to fight over who
Yeah.
got stuck with her, like, oh, we don't want her. You
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
her. That was me.
Yes.
So, clearly that
Yes.
wasn't happening.
I know. I was that person. I was usually picked last, and I hated it when people said, or the coaches or whatever said, we're picking teams for dodgeball or kickball or whatever. And I was usually when I was like, okay, if I'm not very last, it's okay. Like, I just want to be second to last, or
Right.
but they waited to pick me, so
Yeah.
it's fine. I'm probably stronger for it anyway. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't think I remember who any of those people are. They're not a part of
no,
my life. It didn't affect me at all. In the moment
yes,
when I was 8 and they were like, no, you get stuck with Marcy, I felt terrible, but it's not like it infected my life in any way. So
Yeah.
so be it. What is your favorite meal?
Always Mexican food of any kind. It is one of my comfort foods completely. So anything Mexican food, I will eat anything.
Spicy?
That yep, I will do spicy. Now, yes, I will probably not like ghost pepper spicy, but I would do, yeah,
Jalapenos?
anything. Yes, I will. I
Wow,
like all of that. So
that's
it's
awesome.
my comfort. It's like
That's
a weird
awesome.
comfort food.
I not many
Yeah.
people, that's unique. It's not many people have answered that. I used to like spicy, and
Yeah.
then after my pregnancy with my daughter, my tolerance for spicy just completely disappeared. I can't
Yeah.
tolerate it anymore. I used
Isn't
to
that
be able to
funny?
eat anybody under the table with spicy food, and I was fine. And now
Yeah.
you even wave a pepper near me, I might get nauseous, you know?
Well, I think the opposite with me. I think the older I've gotten and after I had my son, it kind of the opposite happened. I couldn't before and then I could. So, pregnancy does weird things to your
Totally
body.
changes. My hair went from straight to wavy, like
Yeah.
totally changes
Yeah,
everything.
it does.
Okay, number 5. What one piece of advice would you like to give your younger self? I think I can predict this.
I would Yes, I would say break through my own glass ceiling. I think I held myself back from so many opportunities and just having any confidence in myself. I always doubted myself before I did anything. And I was always worried about being good enough. I was always worried about who might be better at me, at whatever, anything really. I mean, the more I reflect on it, the more I see that I did that
Sure.
more than any other quality, I guess. So I would just go back and I would say, like, just break that ceiling. And I still kind of work through that today as far as, limitations. And I think we all do that. It's like, all right, I can go bigger, or I can do this, and just doing the scary thing and just making yourself do it. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
That's an excellent answer. I think that a lot of times we tend to make things that we're unsure of much more scary in our heads than they are in reality. And then when we finally just sort
Yes.
of jump in with both feet or rip the band-aid off or whatever metaphor you want to use, it's never as
Yeah.
bad or as scary as we think it's going to be.
Yes. And even if it doesn't work out, you end up, as cheesy as it sounds, like you end up learning so much from the mistake or from just the path. Sometimes when it doesn't work out the way it's supposed, well, the way it
The way
doesn't
you
work
want
out,
it
like
to.
sometimes, yes, thank you. The way you want it to work out, it ends up being the correct path. You just didn't realize it was.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
mhm,
Yeah, there were
yeah,
moments in my life, especially as a young, like teenage adolescent, where I knew I wanted something and I probably had the talent to go to be successful at it, but held myself back from trying my best because I was so afraid that I would fail. And
yes,
somehow it made sense in my 15-year-old brain that if I didn't try as hard as I could, then if I failed, it really wouldn't be a slight against me because, well, I didn't try my
mhm,
hardest anyway, you know?
yes,
Like, what the
I get
hell is
that
that? That's
completely.
like the screwed up inside
I
out
know.
logic?
Well, and I think for me too, like I would try out for something and then if I didn't make it, that was the end of it. Like I never tried out again. I never tried it again. And that's kind of the same upside down logic. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, if you really want the thing, you've got to try out more than one time and you've got to keep doing the thing until you get better at it to where you'll make the thing. So to me, it's like I tried out for, cheerleading a couple of times and especially like being a Colts cheerleader for the Indianapolis Colts. And I
did?
tried out.
That's
Yeah, I tried out.
badass. That's awesome.
So yeah, there was this big audition, and before that, they had these prep classes you could take. So I went to these prep classes, and I walked in, and there were these girls sizing me up, and it was like checking everybody out, and they made us do poses in front of the mirror and all this stuff, and I did not have the confidence for it. I remember the choreography I was behind on. The more I tried, the more I got frustrated. And so I ended up leaving and going to the McDonald's drive-through and eating a couple of cheeseburgers on the way back. And I never showed up again. And that was actually the worst thing I could have done, because if I really wanted that, I mean, not that that's the end goal in life, but if
Right.
I really wanted it, I should have, why not show up again and just be like, all right, girls, I'm back. I'm going to get the choreography this time, or maybe even ask one of them for help, and be the person who's like, I feel embarrassed asking, but I really want to do this and I need some help. Like, I
Or
think if
at
I
least,
would have
or at
approached
least
the,
just show up and try my best, even if I don't get it, you
yeah,
know? Yeah.
right. And show up more than one time. Like, I bought this pass that was like 5 sessions. I only went the one time, went to McDonald's and then never came back. And I was like, well,
Right.
I'm done with that dream, which is, that doesn't make any sense. So,
No.
and that was when I was in my early 20s, but still, it doesn't matter. I look back, I'm like, don't give up, keep trying.
Yeah, there were a lot of instances in my life now that you're talking that I had completely forgotten about and didn't even include in my book because I totally forgot about them until this minute. But there was a time I
Really?
had done theater in high school and in college. And then afterward, I thought like I would do community theater. I mean, I sing, I do a little, not so much dancing, but I could, move on stage. And so
Yeah.
I tried out for a few parts like community theater type things. And I got into one and it wound up not going because we lost our funding in the theater and it crashed and burned. But there were a few like small regional theaters that I went to and I did a couple of auditions and never got called back. And I stopped
Mhm.
pursuing it. Even though it was always
Mhm.
something I really wanted to do, I felt stupid. Everybody else seemed to know everyone else. And I'm like, I don't really have much to write on a resume besides like, I had a bit part in Pippin in college, like I just felt ridiculous. So I stopped going. And then there was one time where I went to a recording studio in Huntington, which is a town about 10 miles from here, where they were doing auditions for backup singers for some commercial or something. And I had never sung in a recording studio before. And I didn't know,
Yeah.
like, it was just really like fish out of water. It was very weird. And the the key that the backup music was in was different than the key that I had practiced it in. And so it was
Mm.
just like a helicopter motor, just crash and burn. It was awful. And I just ran out of there, like, don't even look at me. And I never looked
Sure.
back. And I thought, well, gee, yeah, I would probably have been good at that had I given myself a chance, but
Yeah,
didn't.
it's like, you want to feel seen and you want to feel like you can show up even if you embarrass yourself or even if you fail at something. I think that's one of the
Right.
hardest lessons,
Yeah,
that we face, especially failing in front of other people. I think that's when it's like a humiliation and we internalize it. And maybe the people around us don't even know that we were that humiliated. But I think in our minds, we can create this whole story. And then by the time that we decide that we're not going to show up again, people have forgotten about what had happened the first time. So,
actually, they might have even forgotten about it 5 seconds later. Because it was
right.
only important
Exactly.
to us because it was central to our
Exactly.
experience. It wasn't central to anyone
Yeah.
else's experience. They were probably worried about their own thing. They might not have
Exactly.
even
Yeah.
noticed that we were even a part of anything. You're like, yeah, well, that's a
Right.
brown haired girl. She's gone. What was her name? We don't even know. She never showed up again, you know?
Yeah. Totally.
And
Yeah.
I think that some of that comes with maturity and life
Mhm.
experience when you sort of realize that even if I do publicly embarrass myself, the earth isn't going to open up and swallow me whole.
Right.
Lightning's not going to strike me in the head. Nothing is going to happen. There are no negative repercussions. I
Yeah.
think to me, the worst thing is to just say, what if forever and not go
Mhm.
for it. Well, what if I
Totally.
had auditioned and what if I had not gotten on stage and, maybe I could have done that or what would have happened. And I
Yeah.
personally hate to live with that. So,
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that's really good. Because I think, the grit part is the part that's missing from a
yeah,
lot of people, and just knowing those action steps, even if they're small, they make such a huge difference and
absolutely.
they impact everything, and it all goes back to that.
Yeah. And it affects globally how you
Mhm.
approach every challenge in life, having the
Yes.
grit, what I used to call frustration tolerance before I heard the term grit. Like how much are you willing to tolerate being frustrated in trying to achieve whatever it is, whether it's learning how to do algebra or singing on stage or becoming
Yes.
a professional cheerleader. Like, it doesn't really matter what the thing is. How much do
Yes.
you want it to be able to tolerate the frustration until you get there?
Yes.
That
I always tell my kids,
stick-to-itiveness.
yes, yes. And I always tell my kids in class, like, it's the easy way to give up. Anybody can give up. You can give up in 5 seconds, but
Right.
it's the sticking with it that matters. And it's the raising your hand that matters. And it's the doing the thing one time and another time and another time that starts to add up to help you make progress, because the giving up is the easy part. So,
Exactly. I'm sure
mm.
you're probably a phenomenal teacher. Your students probably adore you.
Oh, thank you.
We can pick this out. We know. Okay, last question, and then we'll move on to the meat of this. Although this has already been so much fun. What is the
Oh, yeah.
one thing you would most like to change about the world?
I have a lot of things, but I guess I came back to, I just want people to see the good in others, because there is so much good in the world. And I think it's all about perspective and what you choose to see and the people you choose to surround yourself with. And I know that there are circumstances that people can't control as well. So I'm not taking that lightly. But I think it all goes down to kindness and just seeing the good and just being open to other people who are different from you, and just knowing that it's those little things that can have a ripple effect
Yeah,
on the world. I mean, as silly as that sounds, it is the smiling or the making small talk with a cashier, and it is the asking about, when you notice someone's off, just asking if they're okay or whatever that is. It can be a
right.
million little things, and it's those kindnesses that add up to change. So I think that seeing the good and just having that kindness just in the back of your mind all the time is, you know,
It's
really
everything.
important.
Yeah,
And it is. And everyone has bad days. I mean, I'm not saying that, but you know what? I think too, finding the kindness when you're having a bad day is even more powerful, because it
absolutely.
changes you, it changes them, it changes everything.
Absolutely. It's completely revolutionary.
Mm.
Actually, both.
Yeah. Yes.
Actually, both.
Yeah.
Actually, both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always
I
used to
think so.
watch my grandmother. My grandmother was one of those people who could walk in a room that she's never been in before and somehow she knows like five people, or at least
Hmm.
appears to know five people, at least from my perception
Yeah.
as a little girl. And she would just talk to people. Strangers would call her grandma. She was perfectly happy with it. She just remembered everyone's names. She remembered everyone's kids' names and their husbands' names and would ask questions and was just genuinely interested. And I remember feeling that that was magnetic, that was
Yeah.
magical,
It
and
is.
wanting to be that way, and I
Mhm.
I was a very sounds kind of crazy coming out of my mouth now, but I was a very shy child. And I literally talked myself out of being shy when I was a freshman in high school, because I
Wow.
realized, like I said a minute ago, I realized that the world was not going to open up and swallow me into the earth. And that if I
Yes.
embarrassed myself by saying something, I'd live through it. But that I didn't
Right.
want to miss things by being a wallflower and not
Mhm.
participating and not
Yeah.
joining into the conversation. Because what I wanted more than anything was to feel like I belonged, was to feel
Yes.
connected in the community of other students and so on. And I was holding myself back. And then one day I was standing there with a group of people who I knew, and they were all joking around. And I said, okay, you have a funny line in your head, just say it and see what happens. And I said it and everyone laughed and they're like, oh, you're so funny, Marcy. Oh my God. And I was like, I can do this. And like, I never was shy again after that. And so
That's
now
incredible.
people look at me and they're like, you were shy? What are you, freaking nuts?
But it just took that one moment, and that's
That's
what
it.
it's all about, belonging. That's all people want, is to know that they're seen and to belong. And
Absolutely.
once they truly feel that, and that's why I do my groups, is to cultivate that. But once that happens, it's like a game changer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sure you see that happen right in front of your eyes
Yes,
with the girls in your group.
I do. Yep, it's incredible. It's my favorite part of what I do, because that's my, if I would say that's the underlying message, is that's it, is to help them belong, help them know that they can be different than the other girls in the group, They can have things in common, but they all belong, and we're all connected around a common goal. And that's just being better than we were yesterday and just continuing to grow and just learn from each other.
That's great. And you're building relationships and building self-trust and
Mhm.
self-compassion and trust and compassion to
Yeah.
others and empathy. And that's wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's just going to set the girls up to be successful and be extraordinary young women in their own right forever. It's
Yes.
invaluable.
And that's what I thought is what I started learning through my own transformation about 3 years ago is just that they don't have to wait until they're adults to learn these things. And
In fact,
that's
they're
why I was
better
so
off learning them
motivated.
now.
Yes, because then the habits are ingrained. And when hard things do happen, they have healthy things to draw from. They
Yep.
already have the habits in place. And even if they just implement a couple of them, they're further ahead than most of us were as young girls and women and young women. Because I know so many young women and even, my age who are just learning how to do this, or sadly, some of them never learn.
I
And they
know.
just
I see that too.
continue to, yeah, the pattern of like not believing in themselves. And it breaks my heart because I want that for all women and all girls. So, yeah. So that's why it's so important to just pour into them when they're young and just help them with all of these things so that as they grow, they grow with these good habits and they
Right.
hopefully help girls around them.
And are probably, they'll be confident enough in themselves and their own resiliency and their own compassion and their own skills and talents and at the same time healthy boundaries so that they won't
Yes.
get stuck in unhealthy relationships and be victimized by abuse and all of that other stuff that just further puts us back and damages our whole psyche and everything as we try to move forward in life, because then there's all those other things to get over when if
Yes.
they had known how to sort of say no to that and not get involved, they could have sidestepped the whole situation. Not to say that it's going to be a cure all and end all, because
Right.
everything's,
Of course.
but
Yeah,
it's many steps in the right direction.
it
So
is. And I
so
just
how
had,
go ahead.
yeah.
You just what?
Well, I just had a girl in my group actually who had a direct experience with boundaries, if you don't mind my sharing.
No, absolutely.
Um,
Play share away. I was going to ask you more specifics about the group anyway. So good.
yeah. So I had this girl in my coaching group, and she was talking to me about how her main issue is around friendship. And so it was surprising to me because she's a very nice girl and she's very giving and all of these things. And she kept talking about this one girl, and this one girl who just would talk about her behind her back, would whisper to another girl and look at her and do all of the things that we know are toxic that girls can do to each other.
Sure.
And this girl's in fourth grade. And so I said, when you journal, so I was like coaching her through like, strategies and what she can do. She was like, well, I don't feel comfortable keeping my journals in my room because when this girl comes to my house, she goes through all of my things. So we had a really good conversation. I helped her think through like qualities of her friends. I'm like, okay, tell me about Molly. What's her, what are her qualities? She was like kind, wonderful, creative, all these great. I'm like, okay, tell me about this girl. And she was like demanding, rude, goes through my things, whatever. And I was like, okay, tell me about this friend. Sweet, giving, like, I was like, okay, do you hear any difference? And so what we ended up doing is unpacking the fact that she knew this girl was toxic, but she didn't know how to set the boundary. And so we went through strategies. Now this was a one-on-one call, so it was very private, but we went through strategies, and then I just left it up to her because it really is her choice, as far
Sure.
as what she implements. And I recommend, but then the next time I followed up with her, she had cut off that friendship and she set
Excellent.
that clear boundary. And I was so proud of her. And it was shocking to me because I didn't know if she would. She's a pretty shy girl, so I didn't know if she would be that bold, but I think she had just had enough. And I try to point out that, there are certain boundaries that you don't break in a friendship, like going through each other's things, looking for whatever, and just making you feel uncomfortable and just listening to their bodies as far as when she was doing that and going through your things, how did you feel? And she talked about how uncomfortable and all of that. And so I said, that's a good sign that that's the wrong person. So we talk
Absolutely.
about
You got to trust
surrounding
that.
ourselves with, Yes, and just to listen to your inner voice, and that you have to surround yourself with positive people. And the other girls that she described, and like, those are the people that you want to be around. And you should never feel afraid when your friend comes over that they're going to find something and use it against you. Like
Sure.
that's a big sign that it's, not a good friendship.
Unhealthy,
So
definitely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So hopefully that sticks, and I hope that she can apply that as she gets older too.
I hope so. Yeah, the first thing I thought of when you said that is, well, why the heck is she even in this girl's house? Like,
I know. I
no,
know.
no.
I know. I think she was the kind of person who was just kind to everyone. I mean, I know that about her. And she was just like, just accepting of everyone. But I think even when you're a really accepting, kind person, you have to have boundaries, because otherwise everyone's going to walk all over you, or you're just going to accept everyone and you're going to accept the wrong things instead
Sure.
of having a quality that you deserve.
Yeah. Yeah. So Girls Positivity Club is a group thing that you do. It's
It
online,
is.
right?
It is right now. It started in person. So this all started back when my dad was going through brain cancer, and
Oh, that's
I was
tough.
in. Yeah. So it was a big shock to our family. We had no idea that he actually had brain cancer. And he drove down to Florida, and his sisters lived there, and they took him to the hospital the next day because said he was acting off. And then, long story short, he had glioblastoma, which is a very aggressive cancer.
I
And so, luckily, I had some good habits in place because I had been going through this weight loss transformation and this wellness journey. I had lost 50 pounds,
Mazel
and
tov.
through, thank you.
That's
And
huge.
through being, I know, I worked my ass off. But I was part of this community of women online, and the teachings that the leader, so Danette May is the nutrition person. And so I joined her program because it was affordable. And then I just applied her teachings, and it was all about self-love. And she did meditation, and she did, there are mindful workouts so that you have an intention in mind. You have an abundant workout, you have a love workout, you have, you set these intentions. And so that was her whole philosophy. And so that transferred to helping me go through my dad's cancer. And then I
Wow.
started thinking, why am I not doing this for girls? Because it's working for me. And my God, I'm having all of these huge breakthroughs. So I started getting the idea when I was in the midst of my lowest point to start these clubs at lunchtime. So I started with my fourth graders who I had at the time, and I just started these lunch groups. I just started teaching them what I was learning, and I put my own twist on it. And then I just put in some art, and they get creative in different ways. And then it grew from lunchtime, and then I looped with that same group of girls the next year. So I had 2 years with them at lunch, and then it grew to an after school program, and then it went district wide. I went to 2 schools,
Wow.
and then I was volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club doing that population just on my own, and then COVID.
Right.
So I was really getting momentum, and I was really growing. And then I figured, well, I can't quit.
Yeah.
So I decided to pivot, and I offered my groups on Zoom. I created my group coaching, and it's just kind of grown from there. And so, yeah, I have all kinds of groups that I meet with through
And now
Zoom.
you can
And
do more because you don't have to travel, and you can get people
exactly,
that aren't just in your area in Indiana. You could get kids all over the country.
exactly. And that's my ultimate goal is I want to reach more families of girls and more girls, and for them to know that whether they're in New York or whether they're in Massachusetts or
Sure.
California, we can all come together and just empower each other, and have that sense of belonging and learn something and have fun. Because the part that they love the most is the creative part. And
Yeah.
I just tie it in with my lesson, and it works. They love it. So
That's very cool. So you meet once a week with the groups?
yes, we do. So I have different versions. So I have a 6 week, and we meet once a week, and I choose themes based on what I've noticed that the girls are telling me that they need. I've done some surveys, and just through my own experience in the classroom of just reading kids. As you know, as a teacher,
Sure.
if you're a good teacher, you can read kids, and you try things. And some of the groups you think are going to be awesome flop, and then the ones that they latch onto and they go with, are like your best ones, and those are the surprises. It's like I did not know they were going to really be into that topic. So like the calming and anxiety relief and things, like I knew that was a need, but they just are like sponges with all of that. And
Yeah.
so that's become a really high priority for me, is to teach the girls just different ways to have self-care and to just have healthy ways to handle stress and anxiety, especially with everything crazy with school and all of
Yeah.
the
This year,
challenges right
especially,
now. Yeah,
everybody's
so we
anxious.
work on
Mental health is crazy. Yeah. It's,
that.
we think we're exhausted as teachers. I think the kids are beyond frustrated and exhausted and sad, and they don't have the life experience we have to know that this is hopefully
Yeah,
going to be a short-lived thing, and that at some point when the vaccine and herd immunity happen, then it'll all sort of go back to normal slowly. And I
yeah,
just see them, they just look so defeated.
I know.
It breaks my
It's
heart.
hard. I know. And it's nice. We were talking about, I know, the masks off air and how we can't really see their faces, but Zoom allows for them to have their mask off. And so it's nice to even see their faces, see how they're
Yeah.
reacting, and that's it's a nice just little win, I guess, with the groups
Yeah,
beyond
that's
what we
awesome.
do.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. So you have coaching groups and a 2021 roadmap workshop coming up.
I do. So I am kicking off the new year with just teaching them to have a vision for 2021 and how to create, their vision for what they want to happen, what they want to achieve, the people they want to surround themselves with. So it's a form of a vision board workshop. And so we're just going to get creative, and we're going to pull from different categories, your school life, your home life, your friends, and your activities, your interests, like just things that they can look forward to. Because I think what we can get into with all of the pandemic is that there's nothing to look forward to. And I don't think that's true. I think you create your own vision, and there are
Yeah.
things that can happen. Even if you are stuck at home, you can still, if you're artistic. I mean, I have this girl in my group right now who has written a novel, and she's in fifth grade, and she illustrates dragons, and she's like really into the Wings of Fire
Wow.
series, and she has her own version, and it's legit, like it's very good. Like she was creating this wolf dragon today. And so her biggest issue is she's very shy. And I've noticed her over time from being in my groups and being in my classroom. So I do have a few of my students in my groups, just because they wanted to hop on. They're like, we're in, so, but she's raises her hand a little bit more in class. It's still, not every day necessarily, but those are the kids you always call on, because like, oh my God, she's raising her hand, yes.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
yes, and it's that way for them to feel that little bit of confidence, and hopefully that'll add up over time. So yeah,
That's wonderful.
I love it.
Yeah, I was just
That's what
thinking
I
about my students this year, and I don't really have, I have like out of 100, and I teach high school, so I've got like 120 some art kids, and I think I could count on one hand the number of them that actually raise their hand and participate this year. And it breaks my heart. They're not even talking to each other socially in the classroom. They're just sitting there silently with their identical Chromebooks and their identical Chromebook cases. And they're in these rows with these plexiglass things around the desks. And it was
yeah.
just, all I hear is the clickety clack of the keyboards.
Mhm.
And it reminded me so much of like 1984, like George Orwell. And
Yeah.
um, there was or it's just, it's so upsetting to me. And I don't kind of know how to pull them out of it right now. Like I'm trying to find videos, and like I even
Mhm.
put out crayons a few weeks ago and had them draw stuff that wasn't really related to anything. It was just, let's draw about things we like, things that make us
Yeah.
happy, just to get them to sort of
Yes.
put the computers away for a little while. And they
Yes.
were 12th grade seniors, they're 17 years old. And I gave them a piece of paper and a little baggie of crayons, and they were like giddy 6-year-olds, they were thrilled. And they were starting to
That's
have conversations. And
yeah.
I was almost in tears just hearing their, well, what are you drawing? I'm drawing a butterfly. What are you drawing? That was just, amazing. I need to do
I,
more stuff like that and still stay on
yeah.
task with the curriculum. So, yeah,
Well, I
all
think
about
that's what they love the
creativity.
most. Yeah, they love that the most because they feel connected to it and there's less pressure. And I think that's why they like that the most about my groups is that art piece or that
Yeah.
movement, or we cook, like we've made cupcakes and I call them confidence cupcakes, and we talk about
Nice.
confidence and cupcakes. And it's those light little activities, like tomorrow we're painting rocks. We're making kindness rocks and inspiration rocks to give to people and to lay just like in public somewhere just to spread some light. And I
Nice.
think it's those little things that they just really they enjoy. Like you said, it's like they have that inner child, and even when they are fifth grade or younger, it it still is such a healing thing to do things like that, or just even think of their own qualities and just to create something and say like, hey, I'm good at this and I feel good when I do this, and just to acknowledge that, I think is such a healing thing too. So it's those
Yeah,
basic
it's
things that
creative
really help.
affirmations. It's being
Yes.
self-aware and
Yeah.
compassionate to yourself and realizing being cognitively aware, consciously aware of the talents that you have. I think so
Yes.
many kids, especially girls, are sort of
Mhm.
told by society to be quiet and thin and not take up too much space and don't cause me any trouble and don't cost me any money. And, we're
Yes.
just sort of supposed to be receptacles of other people's desires and taught that our value is in service to others and not that we're allowed to have our own things. So I think
Yes.
I think the Girls Positivity Club is needed in every city, in every country, in every town, in every state, and everywhere. I think it's important. It's so
I do
important.
too. Well, and I think the two major issues that girls, like you said, that they deal with is people pleasing and perfectionism,
Yeah.
and also feeling like they have to downplay their strengths, because even girls thinking that they're good enough is a big need, and even them thinking that they're pretty, like that it's okay to think that you're pretty, or it's okay to like something about your body. It doesn't mean that you have to walk around and, talk about it all the time. But some of the girls will say, because I told them before, like, it's okay when we were writing positive qualities and doing this art. I said, it's okay if you want to write down that you think you're pretty. And some of them were like, well, I think I'm kind of pretty. And I think that's valid too, because, as you're growing up, you don't always like all of your qualities. And I think even as an adult woman, we can all look in the mirror and pick out every little thing.
Sure.
But if we focus on the good, just something good, like, oh, my hair looks good today, or it can be anything. Just doing that is such an affirmation. And not that it's all about looks, because it's more about the inside, but I think it's okay too to be happy with something on your outside, and you should be at some point, be able to say that there's something about the way you look that you like. And I had a group one time at lunch who we did that. They asked me to if they could compliment each other on qualities that they noticed about the other
Of
girls.
course.
Yeah, and they were like, and one of them was like, "Your skin is so pretty," and this girl had just like perfect skin. She was like, "Really?" And so then I taught them like how to accept a compliment and what
Yeah,
that
that's
feels
tough.
like. And yeah, and so even because some of them were being complimented on things that they didn't like about themselves, but other people saw the beauty in it. So it was this powerful
That's
experience and
awesome.
unexpected. It just kind of, that's the thing about meeting with groups of girls and having conversations. It's like you never know. Sometimes something comes up and
Yeah.
it ends up being this powerful conversation. So
Wow. Do you think that I don't even know how to ask the question. It's not sort of in a sentence in my own head. Do you think that it's sort of in vogue in a way to not think you're pretty or not like your body, that somehow complaining about it and finding fault with it is the thing that they're supposed to do?
I think so. And I think unintentionally, I think that moms will complain about something about their body, or they'll make a comment about being fat or looking a certain way and something. And again, I don't think that we intentionally do that at all. But I think not only just what they see, on TV and comparing themselves to other girls. But I think maybe even as adult women, we have to be really mindful and
Yeah.
almost be more in gratitude of our bodies instead of making negative comments about certain things, because they listen. And I think that we don't mean to, but we can pass that on to our girls.
Oh, I have definitely done that, and it has been an absolute mistake. You know,
Yeah.
I've always battled with being curvier than I wanted or
Yeah.
curvier than other girls, but Northeastern Russian Jewish stock, and this is what my
Yeah.
lineage, I'm not a natural
Yeah.
athlete. I do not really like working out. I do not make time for it. Um, and I'm trying to come to peace with the fact that I'm 52, postmenopausal, post hysterectomy. This is what my body looks like. And if it really
Yeah.
bothered me, wouldn't I do something about it? But
Yes.
what I didn't realize was all along while my daughter was growing up, she was picking up on things that I might not have thought I was saying out loud, like picking out certain clothes that flatter my body. And I was looking at it like, all right, I should wear longer skirts because the thicker thighs make the short skirts not look so good. And
Yeah.
instead of thinking about it like I was ashamed of the thick thighs, I was just looking at it from an aesthetic point of view that I liked my body better with the longer skirt. But she took it as me feeling shame about the thick thighs,
Yeah. And
and
that's what
and
she.
that's what she picked up
Mm-hmm.
on. And like I'm not very comfortable with how my body looks right now, and it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable for me to look at myself in the mirror that way. But I'm working on that, but
Right.
never in my life, whether I felt overweight or in shape or beautiful or not, it never affected my self-esteem, my self-value. It never changed. It never made me feel less attractive or less worthy of love or less smart or less intelligent, or it didn't affect that. Like I might have not
That's
felt,
incredible.
like I just didn't internalize it that way. Yeah, I wish this, but that's not the
Yeah.
case. And I never had a problem having a boyfriend or, getting the validation from the opposite sex when I wanted it. So clearly it wasn't getting in the way of that. Although I had a few
And I had
dates when I was single that weren't so great.
right. Well, and I had the opposite. I would say, even through my weight loss, I still had to work so much on my internal self talk and just all of that. And I would say, even losing the weight, it didn't fix things. I still had to work on that because I struggled with the opposite. I never felt like my body was enough. I never felt like I was pretty enough or good enough to have a boyfriend or any of those things. And it's almost like I manifested that for myself.
Mhm.
And I had a mom who dieted up and down like her entire life, struggled with her weight, and still does. And instead of accepting, like you were saying, it's all about kind of that self-acceptance. That's the more powerful
I mean, I'm not there
way to.
yet, Melissa. I am far
Well,
from self-acceptance. I'm an emotional eater
well,
in the middle of a pandemic, and last week I ate an entire box of Malamars in one sitting by myself.
well,
I
we've
get
all
it.
done that.
I get it.
I've eaten, I've eaten my share of Doritos and everything else, so
Right.
I get that completely. But you know what I mean? I mean, at
Yeah.
least though you had a better, um, some kind of foundation of feeling, comfortable in your own skin at
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
level.
It doesn't really hold me back.
Yeah.
I don't wear shorts, but that's okay. I wear skirts. It's
Well, yeah, you figure it out.
right. Right. But now my daughter is 19. If she's listening to this, she's probably going to kill me. But she's gorgeous and thin and athletic, and she's a runner, and she's just stunning. No bias, of course.
Yes.
But she wrestles with the concept of her body image, and she says that it came from partially society and the world, but partially me. And it's hard to reconcile that, you know? I
And
wish I could rewind and figure out what I said and undo it, but you know, it's too late for
yeah,
that.
but
But we just have to go forward and work on how it is now, you know, and make
yeah,
people feel
and at
better
least you're
about it.
having conversations. Absolutely, and at least you're having conversations about it. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's powerful,
Yeah. We
and
talk
she's
about
able to.
everything. Yeah.
That's good. And that's what is so important, is finding a way to communicate with your daughter. And I've even had this idea of the interactive journal, where I have them pass a journal back and forth between their mom and themselves, and so they decide on an agreed upon spot. They
That's a
just take a
fabulous
notebook.
idea.
It's awesome because they just take any kind of notebook and they can write literally anything in it. It can be, and it doesn't, what I always caution though is it's not the things that are wrong. It's like, these are the qualities that I love about myself. And then the mom writes her qualities she loves about herself, or they write a story together, or they create art together, or they do something like that. And so it becomes this habit of the nonverbal communication. And so that when something does come up, it can be written down and it doesn't have to be as scary to say out loud. And it's just not that you shouldn't. I mean, you should also have verbal conversations, but sometimes even
It
when you're
could
really
ease
close,
them into it.
absolutely. And it just makes such a huge difference. And the kids actually love it. They tell me that it's one of their favorite things to do. So I think that
I just
any
wrote it
kind
down.
of,
I'm going to do that with my daughter. Of course, when she goes back to college, I don't know how we'll do that. Maybe Google
yeah,
Docs or something. We'll type it.
totally. You can just write about your day, even if you write down a few tips, or not tips, but a few highlights of your day and like what was great about your day. And it's just having that conversation that's very low key. There's no pressure. It's a habit. And then when something does come up, they can say, hey, mom, by the way, this happened. And then it's like, okay, you can write it out or say, would you like to have a conversation about it? And then you just kind of go about it that way.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah,
I think
I was blessed. Like both my kids when they were teenagers, you know, they did the typical pulling away from mom thing because
yeah,
that's what's normal and age appropriate behavior to assert their independence a bit. And
yeah,
and everyone was like, "Oh, don't worry, by the time they're in their mid-20s, they'll come back." But it didn't even take that long.
yeah,
I think by the time my son was 20, he was kind of done with that angsty thing and he was like all about sharing.
yeah.
And my daughter, it was this past winter when she was turning 18, turning 19, and all of a sudden it was like the floodgates of honesty and now totally open. And I cultivated that by reading every possible thing I could and by being in therapy myself and my
Mhm.
encouraging them to visit therapists when it was appropriate and doing that non-judgmental, totally opposite of what my mom did thing um,
Yes.
just totally worked, you know, knock
It's
wood.
crazy, isn't it? Yeah, no, I think that's it. I think it's just finding those little pockets of time to have either
Yeah.
the written or verbal conversation. And
Driving
that's
works
what's,
well too because nobody's
oh,
looking. There's
I
no
was
eye
just thinking,
contact. You know,
yes,
everyone's sort of relaxed. The car's
yeah,
moving, the scenery's
yes,
changing, and conversations
totally.
just flow. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always been a
And I
good
don't know
thing.
why. Yeah, oh, completely. And I don't know why, but my son and I have had conversations too in the bathroom, like when he was younger, when he was taking a bath. And I don't know if like the heat in the room or
Well, it's
something. And then
relaxing and
yeah, and like now when he's 12, so he locks the door. He doesn't want me to come in the
oh, of
bathroom.
course.
But
Well,
even
that too is age
sometimes,
appropriate, right?
yes, I'm like, why are you locking? I'm not coming in. But still sometimes he'll say, can you come in here a minute? And then he asks for a towel, and then it's like, and also by the way, and so it's a
Right.
quick, just a quick thing. But yeah, I think that's important.
It's lovely to have the open dialogue, even if they have to squeeze it in like that. You know, they know that they can still ask the question or confide in you because they trust how it will be received. And so they can be
Yeah,
vulnerable because they know that you're safe, you know.
yeah,
That's wonderful.
completely.
Excellent. Okay, so Girls Positivity Club 2021 Roadmap Workshop. I am going to link your website, Girls Positivity Club. Where is it? I just lost it. Girlspositivity
That
at Gmail is your email address. Where's the website? It's
uh,
just
girlspositivityclub.org.
.org. I was trying to figure out what it was, and I should have just asked you instead of staring at this piece of paper and my terrible
Yeah.
handwriting. Okay,
Oh,
so
you're
I
fine.
will link all of that in the show notes underneath. I keep pointing because that's where it will live later. Not that the podcast people can see me point. Yeah, so I'll link all of that stuff so they can get in contact with you if they have questions or want to enroll their daughters and see what it's all about. I think it's an
I would love
excellent thing.
that.
I'm so glad
Thank
you're
you so
here,
much.
Melissa. This has been fabulous.
I
And
love talking with you.
yeah, it's been really great. I feel like we could do this for hours, but there's a
Same.
time limit. So
There
I
is.
hope your school year continues to go well and that your students are well and healthy. And I feel like a ticking time bomb lately, and I hope we're all okay.
Thank you. You too. I know, you're doing good work, and I know it doesn't always seem like it, but they are hearing you, and it's amazing that you even got crayons out. That was being responsive and really feeding their souls. So I think the more
I'm
little
hoping.
things we can do
I'm hoping.
that,
I
I
want to
know.
pull out like laughter yoga videos and stuff
I
and
know.
just like, let's put the damn Chromebooks away for a few minutes and just do other things.
Yes. Have you ever had them create their own memes?
No. What a good
Okay.
idea.
They love doing that. Yes. So like put up a photo and have them create memes for it. And they can almost have like, I don't know, just like a whole class conversation, but they can just like, I don't know, volunteer it some way, but you'll get so much participation, and then show another one and have them make another meme for it, like, the caption or whatever.
I could probably do that on a Jamboard.
Yes.
And put up a picture and have them put the sticky notes with the meme saying on the Jamboard, and then we can all
Yes.
read them together and then maybe vote on the ones we like best or something. And then I could print them and put them up on our Google Classroom.
Yes. You could.
Brilliant, brilliant. I'm writing this down. Make
Yeah.
our own
Hey,
meme.
they always say put two teachers in a room and they'll come up with all kinds of ideas.
Yeah, then yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's great. That's great. Oh, I'm
I
so
love
going to do
doing
that this week.
You'll have such high engagement. You won't even believe it.
That's by changing it. Like every day I put up a different photograph or a piece of art, and we write for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
starting with what is inspired by that piece of art, and however it morphs into other things is fine. I don't even care. And I don't even read it. I just give them all 100 for doing it.
Right.
I just call it the Quick Write Challenge. We're going to write for 5 minutes straight just to get the juices flowing. But this is taking that in a different direction, a little different creativity, focusing on all the things that memes do. I like this. I'm going to change tomorrow's Quick Write. This is what we're going to do instead.
Oh, good. You'll have to send me a picture of it or something.
Oh, I will. I'll take a screenshot of the Jamboards. Actually, the Jamboard's saved in my Google Drive, so I can just send you a picture of that or just share it with you directly. Yay!
Yeah.
So much fun.
Great. Yeah.
Fabulous. Yeah. 2 teachers in a room. What are you going to get? Ton of stuff. Fabulous.
Yeah. All kinds of ideas.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for listening in and enjoying our conversation. We hope that that you had as much fun listening as we had talking, and that you've been inspired, because that's kind of the point. Give yourself permission to heal, give yourself permission to love all of the things about yourself, and feel proud of who you are and your talents and your open-hearted goodness, and go forth and spread that kindness and empathy everywhere you go. Melissa, thank you so much for joining
100%.
us.
Thank you so very much. I've loved being here.
My pleasure. Hope you'll come back.
I would love to.
Excellent.